All right, let's dive into something that's, well, one of the most powerful and easily exploited parts of our psychology, our attention. We're going to look at what really makes us look. And more importantly, in today's world, what's the hidden cost of just that one single glance? You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're driving past an accident, or maybe you're scrolling past some awful headline and you feel it. That magnetic pull. You know you should probably look away, but some primal part of your brain just refuses. So what is that? Why can't we just look away? Well, first off, that feeling, it's not some kind of personal flaw. It's not just you. It is a really deep-seated, universal human impulse. I mean, this thing stretches back through our entire history. So to really get it, we've got to look at what's actually going on inside our heads. I mean, it's so common, we literally have a phrase for it, right? It was like watching a train wreck. I just couldn't look away. That phrase, it just perfectly captures that weird mix of horror and fascination, that feeling of being totally captivated even when you know you shouldn't be. And yeah, it turns out this feeling is a fundamental part of our psychology. So here's where it gets really interesting. Because this feeling is so powerful, so universal, psychology actually has a name for it. This isn't just, random curiosity. Nope. It's a recognized, documented urge with a long, and I mean a really long history. And that name is morbid fascination. Now, I know the word morbid sounds a little dark, but it's not quite what you might think. It really describes this powerful, almost primal drive we have to understand negative or threatening stuff, but, and this is key, from a safe distance. Think of it like our information gathering instinct just kicked into absolute overdrive. And trust me, this urge is nothing new. I mean, just think about it for a second. The Roman Colosseum, they turned brutal violence into state-sponsored entertainment. Fast forward to medieval times, and public executions were sold as a public spectacle of divine justice. Even Old West hangings were, believe it or not, community events. The only thing that's really changed is the venue. It's moved from the town square to that little screen in your pocket. So today, that exact same instinct is what makes us slow down at a car accident, rubbernecking. It's what fuels the whole dark tourism industry, where people visit sites of tragedies. And it is absolutely the engine behind the massive, massive popularity of true crime. See, the spectacle never really went away. It just found new ways to show up. Okay, so we have this ancient, hardwired instinct. We're all on the same page there. But what happens when that instinct meets the modern internet? Well, it becomes the fuel for a massive global machine that's designed to do one thing: capture it. Because in the digital age, your attention is the product. Media outlets, especially online, are locked in this brutal, nonstop competition for your clicks. And they absolutely know, that the easiest way to get a click is to trigger that ancient, hardwired morbid fascination. Our curiosity, it's literally become their currency. And this really lays out the fundamental conflict, the two different paths. On one side, you've got ethical journalism. Its goal, to inform the public. Its principles, things like accuracy, responsibility, respect for privacy. But on the other side, you've got clickbait. Its goal is way simpler: generate traffic and ad revenue. And its tactics, sensationalism, misleading headlines, and putting speed way, way above accuracy. And this whole situation leads to what UNESCO calls information pollution. And it's important to know it's not all just fake news. There are different flavors. First, you've got misinformation. That's spreading false info, but you think it's true, like an honest mistake. Then you've got disinformation. That's spreading false info on purpose, with the intent to deceive. And finally, there's malinformation. This is when someone spreads true info, but with the intent to harm someone. And the clickbait machine, it uses all three. Now, I know this can all sound a bit abstract, a bit theoretical, but the consequences, they are devastatingly real. So let's look at a case study that shows exactly what happens when a real tragedy gets fed into that clickbait machine. Okay, back in May of 2023, a truly horrific school shooting happened in Belgrade, Serbia. It was a moment of profound national trauma. But instead of careful, responsible reporting, many media outlets saw it as something else: an opportunity for clicks. And the results for the victims, their families, and the public were, well, they were devastating. I mean, just look at this headline, the all caps, the exclamation point. This is pure emotional bait. The goal here isn't to inform you that parents are grieving. Of course they are, that's a given. The goal is to get you to click by cranking up the rawest possible emotion to an 11.
And believe it or not, it gets worse. Words like bloody pier, which translates to bloody feast, were actually used. Language like that turns a human tragedy into a grotesque spectacle. It stops being about reporting the facts and becomes all about making the horror as graphic and therefore as clickable as humanly possible.
And then the tragedy was weaponized. In this case, a pro-government outlet took a comment from an expert on an opposition channel, ripped it completely out of context, and twisted it into a political attack. This is textbook disinformation, using a moment of national grief to score cheap political points. The list of ethical failures here is just catastrophic. I mean, they published the attacker's list with the actual names of children visible. They reported false information that wasn't corrected for months. They took wild speculation from social media and ran it as fact. And they grossly violated the privacy and safety of minors. This wasn't journalism. It was a race to the bottom that just poured gasoline on an already traumatic fire. So, looking at all this, it's easy to feel a bit hopeless, right? Faced with this giant machine, what can any of us actually do? It can feel overwhelming, for sure. But the power we have, it starts with understanding exactly how our attention is being targeted in the first place. This table really breaks down the core conflict here. On one side, you have the media's goal, clicks and ad revenue, driven by speed and sensationalism. And on the other, you have the public's need, especially during a crisis, verified truth delivered with context and empathy. And the outcomes couldn't be more different. One path leads to misinformation and trauma. The other leads to understanding and safety. So, the solution here isn't to just stop being curious. That need to look is a part of who we are. The real key is to become conscious of how that curiosity is being manipulated. It's about learning to recognize when your emotions are being played, when a headline is designed to shock you instead of inform you. That awareness, that's our best defense.
Because ultimately, it all comes down to this. In an economy that literally runs on our attention, every single click you make is a vote. Every share is an endorsement. The machine only keeps running if we keep feeding it. So the real question we all have to ask ourselves is this: your attention is their currency. How are you going to spend it?